Before we dive in, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching. The distress beacon from Kepler station went silent at 0347 Galactic Standard Time. Commander Hayes stood in the observation deck of Luna Base, watching Earth's blue marble turn slowly below. The transmission had lasted exactly 14 seconds, long enough to confirm what everyone in the Sol Defense Corps had been dreading. The Cathara had found them. Across the galaxy, civilizations whispered their name like a curse. Professional hunters, apex predators. They didn't conquer worlds. They harvested them, selected the strongest specimens from each species, then wiped out the rest. Their trophies decorated hunting lodges on a dozen conquered moons. Hayes activated the emergency protocols with a palm scan. Red lights bathed the command center as blast doors sealed corridors throughout the base. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Chen, pulled up the sensor readings with trembling fingers. "Sir, we're detecting 17 craft. Unknown configuration. They're just sitting there." 17 ships hung motionless beyond the orbit of Mars. Each one was a masterwork of predatory engineering, sleek, angular, covered in armor plating that seemed to absorb starlight. No communication, no demands, no warnings. The Cathara didn't negotiate. They simply chose their prey and began the hunt. Hayes had studied every classified report, every survivor testimony from the Outer Rim colonies. The pattern was always the same. First, they would observe, study their target's capabilities, technology, behavior patterns. Then they would select the most challenging specimens, the warriors, the leaders, the ones who might actually provide sport. A soft chime echoed through the command center. The main screen flickered to life, displaying an incoming transmission. Not from Earth, not from any human frequency. The image that appeared made several officers step backward. A Kitharan hunter filled the screen, tall, reptilian, with silver eyes that reflected light like mirrors. Its skin was scarred from countless battles, trophy scars that told stories of conquered worlds. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Humans of the third planet, I am Vexitar, Hunt Master of the Crimson Fleet. Your species has been evaluated. 13 of your kind have been selected for the Great Hunt." The transmission continued without pause. "We have observed your conflicts. Your warriors show promise. In 7 of your rotations, the hunt begins. Prepare your champions. Those who survive the testing will earn swift deaths. Those who do not." The screen went dark, leaving only the hum of anxious breathing. Hayes closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command settle on his shoulders like armor. 13 humans against the galaxy's most feared predators. He opened the secure channel to Earth's military leaders. "Priority Alpha transmission. We have contact with hostile forces. Threat level, extinction class. 7 days." That's all they had. Hayes scrolled through personnel files, searching for candidates who might have even the slightest chance. Special Forces operators, combat veterans, anyone with the skills to survive what was coming. His finger paused on one file. Marcus Stone, former Navy SEAL, dishonorably discharged after a classified incident. The man who shouldn't exist in polite military circles. Hayes had read the reports, the unauthorized mission that saved 200 civilians, but violated direct orders. Stone had been buried in a desk job, his record sealed. Now humanity needed someone willing to break rules. Someone who understood that survival sometimes required becoming a monster. 3 days before the hunt began, the selections were made. 13 volunteers from across Earth's military forces. Each one knew the odds. Each one volunteered anyway. They were transported to a secure facility hidden beneath the Mojave Desert, where they would make their final preparations. Stone stood in the briefing room, studying faces he'd never see again. Marines, Rangers, Special Forces operators from a dozen nations. The best humanity had to offer. Dr. Sarah Kim, the mission xenobiologist, pulled up holographic displays of Kitharan physiology. "They're stronger than us, faster. Their reflexes are enhanced by cybernetic implants. But they have weaknesses," she continued, highlighting sections of the alien anatomy. Their enhanced vision is sensitive to specific light frequencies. Their armor has joint vulnerabilities. And most importantly, they hunt for sport. They want a challenge. That arrogance might be the only advantage you have. The facility's armorer, a grizzled veteran named Rodriguez, led them through the equipment bay. Everything here is experimental. Plasma rifles, adaptive camouflage, neural enhancement boosters. He paused at a wall of weapons. The brass wants you to survive. They've given you toys that won't be declassified for another decade. Stone picked up a rifle, unlike anything he'd ever seen. The weapon hummed with barely contained energy, its surface warm to the touch. How many shots? Rodriguez shrugged. Field tests show about 30 before the power cell needs replacement. But these aren't field tests. Use them wisely. On the final night, Stone sat alone in his quarters, cleaning his sidearm with practiced movements. The familiar ritual helped quiet his mind. He'd volunteered not for glory or country, but because someone had to. Because if humanity was going to die, it would die fighting. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Sergeant Maria Santos entered, one of the 13, a sniper with more confirmed kills than half the men in the room. Can't sleep either? Stone nodded toward the chair across from him. Just thinking about tomorrow. Santos sat down, her own weapon across her knees. My daughter asked me why I volunteered. I told her it was to protect her future. But honestly, I volunteered because I'm already dead. We all are. Might as well make it count. Stone understood. They were ghosts walking, soldiers who'd already written their own obituaries. The hunt began at dawn. 17 Kitharan ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars, their hulls glowing with re-entry heat. They landed in predetermined locations across the globe, remote areas where their quarry could run, hide, fight back. The great hunt demanded space for proper sport. Stone found himself in the Amazon rainforest, surrounded by dense vegetation and sounds he'd never heard before. His tactical display showed the positions of his teammates, scattered across 6 continents. The rules were simple. Survive 72 hours, and humanity would be granted a swift extinction. Fail, and Earth would burn slowly. The first hunter found him within an hour. Stone heard it moving through the canopy above. Too heavy for a bird, too controlled for a monkey. He pressed himself against a massive tree trunk and activated his camouflage. The world shimmered, and he became one with the shadows. Through his scope, he saw it, a Kitharan hunter dropping silently from the branches. 8 feet tall, covered in bioarmor that shifted color to match its surroundings. In its hands, a weapon that looked like it could punch through a tank. The hunter paused, tilting its head as if listening to something Stone couldn't hear. Stone held his breath as the alien passed within arm's reach. Its silver eyes swept the area where he crouched, but the camouflage held. For now, he waited until it moved deeper into the jungle before following. If he was going to die, he'd take one of them with him. The hunt became a deadly game of cat and mouse. Stone used every trick he'd learned in 20 years of warfare. False trails, improvised traps, psychological warfare. He left signs of his passage in some places, erased them completely in others. Confusion was his greatest weapon. Halfway around the world, Santos had claimed the high ground in the Himalayas. Her breath misted in the thin air as she tracked her hunter through her rifle scope. The Kitharan moved like liquid across the snow, leaving barely a trace. But Santos had been hunting humans for 15 years. Aliens weren't that different. She squeezed the trigger. The plasma round lit up the mountainside, carving a glowing line through the air. It struck the hunter's center mass, and the alien staggered, but didn't fall. Its bioarmor had absorbed most of the impact. Santos cursed and chambered another round, but the hunter was already moving, closing the distance with impossible speed. Back in the Amazon, Stone had found what he was looking for, a river crossing where the jungle narrowed into a natural bottleneck. He spent precious hours rigging the area with improvised explosives, using power cells from his equipment. When the hunter finally tracked him there, Stone was ready. The explosion lit up the jungle canopy, sending birds screaming into the sky. Trees crashed down and smoke filled the air. But when it cleared, the hunter still stood. Its armor was scorched, one arm hung useless at its side, but its silver eyes burned with something like approval. The prey had shown cleverness. Stone emerged from cover, his rifle raised. The hunter made no move to attack. Instead, it spoke in broken English. "Good trap, human. You fight with honor. This pleases Vexitar." It gestured to its wounded arm. "First blood to you. The hunt grows interesting." That's when Stone realized the truth. They weren't trying to kill the humans quickly. This was entertainment, sport. The Cathara wanted a challenge, and every clever trap, every narrow escape, only increased their enjoyment. Humanity's desperation was their amusement. The revelation changed everything. Stone stopped running and started hunting. If the Cathara wanted sport, he'd give them more than they bargained for. He disappeared into the deepest parts of the jungle, using the environment as his weapon. Poisoned darts from native plants, pit traps filled with sharpened stakes. The jungle itself became his ally. 3,000 miles away, Corporal Jackson was learning the same lesson in the Sahara Desert. The sand dunes shifted constantly, erasing tracks, creating new hiding places. His hunter followed him with patient persistence, but Jackson had grown up in these conditions. The desert was his home field. He led the alien to an abandoned oil platform, half buried by decades of sandstorms. The metal structure groaned in the wind, its supports weakened by corrosion. Jackson rigged the support columns with shaped charges, then waited. When the hunter entered the platform, Jackson brought it all down. The crash echoed across the desert like thunder. But Jackson didn't celebrate. He'd learned to expect the impossible from these creatures. Sure enough, the rubble shifted and the hunter emerged. Damaged but still alive. Still hunting. Jackson gripped his rifle tighter and prepared for round two. Meanwhile, Santos had taken her battle to the edge of space itself. Her hunter had pursued her to an abandoned research station on the peak of Mount Everest. The thin air made every breath a struggle, but it affected the alien too. Its movements were slower, more deliberate. She waited in the station's communications array, using the metal framework as cover. When the hunter appeared, silhouetted against the star-filled sky, Santos took her shot. This time, the plasma round found its mark. The alien staggered, fell to one knee, green blood steaming in the thin air. But even wounded, it wasn't finished. The hunter raised its own weapon, a massive energy cannon that hummed with lethal power. Santos rolled behind a satellite dish just as the shot scorched the air where she'd been standing. The metal glowed white-hot, then began to melt. Back on Luna Base, Commander Hayes watched the tactical display with growing dread. 4 of the 13 signals had gone dark. 4 human champions, dead or captured. The remaining 9 were scattered across the globe, fighting for their lives against creatures that seemed almost invincible. Dr. Kim worked frantically at her computer, analyzing the combat data streaming from the survivors' equipment. "Sir, I'm seeing patterns in their movement. The hunters aren't using their full capabilities. They're holding back, playing with our people." Hayes felt something cold settle in his stomach. "You're saying they could have killed them already?" Kim nodded grimly. "These creatures are apex predators. They've conquered dozens of worlds. Our people are good, but they're not that good. The only reason any of them are still alive is because the Cathara are enjoying themselves." The revelation reached Stone through his comm unit. He crouched in a hidden cave, listening to Dr. Kim's analysis. The hunter tracking him was somewhere nearby. He could hear it moving through the underbrush. But now he understood the game. The Cathara weren't hunting to kill. They were hunting for pleasure. Stone made a decision that would have horrified his former commanding officers. If the aliens wanted sport, he'd escalate until they stopped playing games. He pulled the pins from his remaining grenades and stepped into the open. "Hey, ugly, looking for me?" The hunter emerged from the trees, its silver eyes widening in what might have been surprise. Humans weren't supposed to invite confrontation. Stone smiled grimly and released the grenades. "Let's see how much fun you're having now." The explosion shredded the jungle around them. Stone dove behind a fallen log as shrapnel filled the air. When the smoke cleared, the hunter was down, but not dead. Its bio-armor was cracked, green blood seeping from multiple wounds. For the first time, Stone saw something new in those silver eyes. Respect. "You fight like a Catharan warrior," the alien said, its voice strained with pain. This was not expected. Stone approached cautiously, his sidearm drawn. "Yeah, well, we're full of surprises." The hunter actually laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Indeed, the hunt master will be interested." That's when Stone realized he'd made a mistake. The wounded hunter reached for a device on its belt, not a weapon, but a communicator. It spoke rapidly in its own language before Stone could stop it. Somewhere above the jungle canopy, engines roared to life. Reinforcements were coming. The pattern repeated across the globe. As the human survivors escalated their tactics, the Cathara began taking them seriously. The playful hunt transformed into something deadlier. Fresh hunters deployed from the orbiting ships, while the wounded ones were extracted for treatment. Santos found herself surrounded on the mountain peak as 3 new hunters landed near the research station. Jackson watched in horror as a massive Kitharan ship settled over the desert, disgorging a full hunting party. The rules had changed, and humanity was losing. But Stone had one more card to play. Deep in the Amazon, he'd found something that Cathara hadn't expected. An old military cache left from a forgotten conflict. Inside, weapons that predated the Galactic peace accords. Weapons that had been banned for good reason. He hefted the experimental plasma cannon, its weight familiar despite its alien design. The power readout showed enough energy for exactly 1 shot. Stone smiled grimly as engines thundered overhead. If he was going to die, he'd make it memorable. The Kitharan ship descended through the canopy, its landing thrusters incinerating acres of rainforest. Stone waited until it touched down, then emerged from cover with the cannon charged and ready. "Message from Earth," he said, and pulled the trigger. The plasma bolt struck the ship's reactor core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the jungle lit up like a second sun as the vessel exploded in a pillar of fire that reached the stratosphere. The shockwave flattened trees for miles, and the roar could be heard in 3 countries. On Luna Base, every screen lit up with the energy signature of the explosion. Commander Hayes stared in disbelief as the tactical display updated. 1 Kitharan ship was gone, completely destroyed. "Jesus," Lieutenant Chen whispered. "What did he hit it with?" But Stone's victory came at a cost. The explosion had revealed humanity's hidden weapons cache to the Cathara. Within hours, similar sites across Earth were being targeted by orbital bombardment. The gloves had come off, and now it was total war. Vexitar, the Huntmaster, stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth burn below. This had not gone according to plan. The humans were supposed to provide sport, not threaten his fleet. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All units, initiate Protocol 7. The hunt is concluded. Begin orbital sterilization." The remaining human survivors received the message through their comm units. Santos, still fighting on Everest, watched as energy beams began raining from the sky. Jackson, pinned down in the desert, saw the horizon light up with explosions. The Cathara had decided that humanity was too dangerous to live. But they had underestimated human ingenuity one final time. Deep beneath NORAD, a classified project had been monitoring the situation. Project Prometheus, Earth's first and only interstellar weapon. It had taken 50 years to build and had never been tested. Dr. Elizabeth Foster, the project's director, stood before the massive control console. Around her, technicians worked frantically to bring the weapon online. "Power at 60%, someone called out. 70, 80. The facility shook as Catharan bombardment struck the mountain above them. 90%, Foster said, her hand hovering over the firing control. Through the facility's screens, she could see the Catharan fleet repositioning for the final strike. 17 ships arranged in perfect formation, preparing to glass the planet. 100%, weapon armed. Foster looked around the control room one last time. Everyone knew this was a suicide mission. The weapon would drain Earth's power grid and probably tear a hole in local space-time. But if it worked, it might take the Kitharan fleet with them. "For humanity," she said, and pressed the button. Space itself seemed to scream as the weapon fired. A beam of pure energy channeled through quantum tunnels and amplified by Earth's magnetic field reached out toward the Catharan fleet. It struck Vexitar's flagship first, punching through its shields like they were tissue paper. The explosion was visible from Mars. The flagship simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant of incredible heat and light. The energy beam continued, sweeping across the fleet formation, destroying ship after ship. Within seconds, the galaxy's most feared hunters were reduced to expanding clouds of superheated gas. But victory came at a terrible price. The weapon's power draw collapsed electrical grids across 3 continents. The quantum effect tore rifts in local space, creating gravitational anomalies that would plague the solar system for decades. Earth had won, but at the cost of its technological civilization. In the Amazon, Stone watched the lights dance across the sky as the Catharan fleet died. The comm unit at his side crackled with voices, survivors from around the globe, calling out to confirm they were still alive. Humanity had faced extinction and somehow, impossibly survived. Commander Hayes stood on Luna Base, looking down at Earth as emergency lights flickered across the darkened continents. The planet looked different now, scarred by bombardment, changed by the quantum weapon's effects, but it was still home, still humanity's world. 6 months later, the survivors gathered at a memorial in Geneva. 13 names carved in black stone, the champions who had bought humanity time to activate its final weapon. Stone stood before the wall, his reflection ghost-like in the polished surface. Santos approached, walking with a limp from her injuries on Everest. "Think they'll come back?" she asked. Stone shook his head. "Word will spread. The galaxy will know what happened here. That humanity isn't prey." He touched one of the names on the wall. "That we don't go quietly." Dr. Kim had spent months analyzing the wreckage of the Catharan ships. Her report was classified at the highest levels. But its conclusions were simple. Humanity had encountered the apex predators of the galaxy, and not just survived, but triumphed. The implications were staggering. "They weren't the strongest civilization in the galaxy," she explained to the assembled leaders. "They were just the best hunters. But hunting and warfare are different skills. They expected sport, not total war. That overconfidence killed them." The Catharan Empire's response came 2 years later. Not as an invasion, but as a diplomatic envoy. The remaining clans wanted to understand how their greatest hunters had been defeated by a supposedly primitive species. The meeting took place on neutral ground, a space station at the edge of human territory. Ambassador Chen, formerly Lieutenant Chen, sat across from a Catharan diplomat whose silver eyes held none of the arrogance Stone had seen in the hunters. "Your species fought with honor," the alien said. "The Hunt Master's final transmission spoke of warriors worthy of respect. The Catharan Empire offers alliance." Stone, now serving as Earth's military advisor, studied the alien diplomat. "Funny how respect only comes after you prove you can kill them." The Catharan's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Is this not the way of all warriors? Strength speaks truth that words cannot." The treaty was signed 3 months later. Humanity would join the galactic community not as prey, but as equals. The Catharan hunting fleets would never again target human worlds. In exchange, Earth would share the technology behind Project Prometheus. Carefully regulated, of course. But Stone never forgot the lesson of those 72 hours in the Amazon. Humanity had survived not through superior technology or alien intervention, but through the willingness to fight when fighting seemed hopeless. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but humans would face them on their own terms. Hey there, I'm really curious about your thoughts on this video. Drop a quick comment and let me know what's on your mind, or just say hi if you prefer. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Oh, and one last thing. Every great warrior knows that to survive and become a hero, taking care of yourself is key. So before you go, please like and subscribe for more HFY tales. Trust me, it's important. And I've chosen another video for you to watch. Just click the card here or here if you want the whole playlist. See you there.